of even one human life, or the malformation of even one baby, who may be born long after all of us have gone, should be of concern to us all. Our children and grandchildren are not merely statistics towards which we can be indifferent, nor does this affect the nuclear powers alone.
Fukushima is here because the radioisotopes from Fukushima have made it here to California, both in our air and in our water, which is now into our crops and probably into our bodies. When you have core meltdown or a serious pool accident, the fuel itself can actually be expelled, or it gets so hot that some of the radioactive things that are solids become ionized, become gases, such as cesium and strontium and so forth. And they get out into the air. It can then float around, come over here to California, which has been observed. If the water that they're trying to cool with is leaking, that gets out, gets into the ocean. And of course, both those things have happened.
And I think Fukushima is showing us we haven't a clue how we're going to undo the damage that has been done.
We've seen it happen. It's not an if, it's a when. We could ignore it for so long, but when you actually see it happen in your generation to an exact same setup that we have, we can't not do anything.
Up and down California's coast now, people are saying we shouldn't be eating the fish. We shouldn't be swimming in the water. Or if we did go swimming, we had to immediately take a shower and just rinse off any radiation. If Japan had such an accident, Diablo can have such an accident.
There's evidence that some of the radioactivity that got into water, got into the fish, particularly blue tuna, got over to our west coast and has been detected in our fish off our shore. This can lead eventually to illnesses, even ultimately cancer.
I have a son. When he was born, he had some health issues. We lived about 15 miles, maybe less, from the nuclear power plant. When he was about 5 years old, he had some medical issues. Eventually, we found out when he had his teeth tested that the radiation levels were high. The only place it could have come from is that nuclear plant. Elliot's results were very high, strontium-90 in his teeth.
Newborn child has to have a test to check their thyroid for thyroid function. They studied it for the period when the radioactive iodine first came over from Fukushima and found that during that period, pregnant mothers absorbed that, and those children being born are showing a higher percentage of thyroid issues.
The correlation of having a lot of strontium-90 in one's baby teeth says that they were exposed to radiation. Strontium-90 is a marker for other radioactive isotopes. So if strontium-90 is there, then all the rest of them are there too. So what could that be? I mean, they say genetics, and no, there's no doubt in my mind it's radiation. It went on and on with other mothers' children getting diagnosed. We would just cry for all these people that were just seeing their children dying. They were so brave. These children were just so brave. And they just kept going on, and the parents kept asking me, when is this going to be over? When are we going to when are we going to help these children finally get over this? It was a nightmare.
We know that when they put the water out into the ocean at Diablo, it spreads out for miles. But it doesn't just spread out for miles. I mean, water goes on forever, really. It goes around and round. Water is what we drink. Water is what we're made up of. And why are we poisoning it?
The idea of not being able to go into the ocean is terrible. I could not. It'd be taking away a piece of my being.
And we know that it's being poisoned. We know that it's being heated up. We know all these things. What we don't know is how far is it spreading.
There's definitely a lot of sadness in my heart when I think of air being toxic. Part of the original gifts that are part of being alive, the opportunity to breathe, the opportunity to swim in the ocean.
That's my ocean. That's where I go fishing. That's where my kids go swimming and surfing.
No one knows when there'll be an earthquake in California. It could be today. It's the most dangerous plant in the world.
If we lose coolant in those pools, we could have the same sort of thing that happened in Reactor 3 at Fukushima, which you have basically an overheating because there's not enough water. It heats up things, you get an explosion, it blows the fuel elements out into the atmosphere, and you have severe contamination.
I can see a siren from Diablo from my porch, and it's strange because it's become a part of my view. I see it just the same way I see the pine tree next to it. But if it ever started ringing, it would be so terrifying.
What if that were real? What would I do if my children are at school or this is happening? What would I do if this were real?
The future of this area, of this country, of this world is not mine anymore. It's really the future of our children and our grandchildren.
This is a legacy that's been left for me. I am the future. I don't want it.
We weren't there at the original decision-making time where people said, all right, we're going to construct this power plant. My generation wasn't there in order to have any sort of say in it, yet we're the ones that are fully going to be taking care of it as it goes into the future.
What's the legacy that we want to leave? What's the Central Coast that we want to leave for our great-grandchildren? And then look at the Diablo power plant and check and see if it's in alignment with your value system. And if it's not, then take whatever steps are appropriate for you as an individual.
I don't want to stay because there's this danger of Diablo Canyon, and it's not somewhere I'd like to settle.
Now I'm inheriting that. And how am I going to act?
If you thought you had a way to prevent that, and you didn't do it, you'd be a monster. The next generation should not carry that burden at all.
We deserve to have a life free of watching our children die prematurely.
Imagine your children saying to you, when you found out they were, polluting the soil, what did you do? When you found out there was radiation going into the rivers, what did you do?
I just thought about my ancestors, and I thought about the children that I'm not sure if I can have yet, wondering, what did you do when all this was going on?
Yeah.
And I was making dinner pretending like nothing happened.
How many more times do these things have to happen before we really say this is the wake-up call? And if we can stop this before something bad happens, that's actually a victory.
We just need to stop this back and forth about whether this is acceptable. I mean, it's just unacceptable. There is no more conversation about whether Diablo should be here.
I'm really excited for the future. It's a little bit scary, but it's a big opportunity for us to have.
We just need to get there, and I think that we are making those steps. We're now the only plant within California, and we're just the last little leg standing, and I feel like it's wobbling and shaking harder and harder every day. I know it's a matter of when, not if it's going to be shut down. I have that feeling and hope.
And my hope is that as a community, and I mean the bigger community as well, that we can truly just go to our gut feeling for a minute and ask ourselves what we deserve and what we're capable of actualizing. And I'd like to think it's something that's a lot better for ourselves now and for the future. And I think we're going to be okay.
I want to be able to tell my son, and I want my son to be able to tell his sons that we did do something.
And then go outside and sit under a tree and enjoy the sunset and enjoy this place that we're so blessed to live in.